We are in Colossians chapter 1, and we're still dealing with the thought of breaking out of darkness. We won't get to that verse today, but we're leading you on this path to get you there. Breaking out of darkness. I'm going to leave this thought with you, and if we have time, maybe we'll get back to it. What darkness is there that you fight against or seems to want to come against you? Um, maybe it may not be something that is just horrible, but it's something that could be fear, anxiety. But anyway, what is it that fights against you? Now, Colossians chapter 1, and let's read verse 9 and 10 today. Here's what it says. For this reason, we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of His will, God's will, in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, and that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing Him. And notice in this verse 10, there's the first thought is that you walk worthy of the Lord, and then it tells you, as you walk worthy, this is what happens. You fully pleasing Him, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God. Amen? So we were talking to you about this whole thought of breaking out of the darkness and how that God has a desire for us, and that this particular book of Colossians was the letter that Paul had written to the church somewhere around 60 A.D., a church that he had founded, a church that he had invested in. And now they're being faced with some opposition. And we were talking earlier as I listened to your testimonies and how that as a church we have become silent. And for the most part we are not relevant in our areas or communities. But if the church as a whole is not being relevant, that means that the individuals are not being relevant. If the church as a whole has become silent, we got to understand the church individually, which is you and me, we have become silent. And if darkness has overcome the corporate church, that means that darkness has overcome the individual members. And God is calling us to, one, not be silent any longer, and two, to break out of the darkness and break into the light. And as we looked at this, the last few weeks we had talked with you, Paul had made this statement, for this reason. He said, for this reason, since the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, that we ask that you may be filled with knowledge and understanding. The Word says, in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Now, why is it that the church doesn't seem to be as relevant as it could be? Why is it that the first century church that Paul was speaking to and writing to, and understand he's most likely in prison when this was written, why is it that it had come to this point? How, we can ask ourselves the question, how did we get here? Did you ever ask that question? I remember Brenda and Amber and I were coming back from Kansas City maybe it's Brianna, I don't remember. But we were coming back from Kansas City, and we usually come down, I guess it's I-49 now, and we get to Harrisonville, and then we turn and go through Clinton. And somewhere just outside of the city, we had probably left very early and we're on our way home. Somewhere outside of the city, before we got to Peculiar or Belton, I must have took a little nap. Because I remember waking up and thinking, where am I? Now I've done that quite often. Sometimes when I get up in the morning, it's like, who am I? Or if I have a little nap, which I had a little hour nap late yesterday, it was just absolutely awesome. There's something to be said. But I kind of came to myself and I thought, where am I? And how did I get here? Have you ever done that? Maybe not driving while blind. How did we get here? What was going on? And that's kind of what the churches suddenly, some churches are saying, how did this happen? Maybe in your life, you come to a point and it's like, what has happened? How did it get to this point? Did I miss something? And sometimes it's not something, it's a whole bunch of something. So what happens is sometimes we have allowed the influence of the outside. Sometimes I get so tired of religious terminology. You ever get tired of religious terminology? We blame the world for everything. What are we talking about? Do you know what I'm saying? Well, it's because of what this, it's because of the world. What does that mean? How does a worldly influence override and bring darkness into what is the light of the world? Because we let it. We let things in. We allow people's opinions. There are a lot of great people out there, and everybody has an opinion. Good people have opinions. But sometimes their opinions are not based on this. It's based on how they feel. It's based on what they see. Here's the other thing. It's based on what they want. Oh, come on. People will try to influence you for their benefit. Isn't it amazing when there's, and I, having been in the church for most of my life, I have seen people, good people, but they want others to accept their opinions. And so they get together. Oh, it's simple. It's very innocent. Hey, Kenny, can I take you out to lunch? And when I do, why am I doing that? I'm doing that to influence him on my opinion. And that happens, doesn't it? And it may be innocent in some ways, but I want to tell you something. When we try to influence people toward our opinion, you know what that's called? Starts with an M. Manipulation. I've told you this. I've told you about times when our church would be in a revival or a move of God, and God was doing awesome things. And I don't say this out of a spirit of pride, but I have seen how easy it is to influence people. Spirit's moving. People think, oh my goodness, that's this moving of God. But it is sometimes orchestrated, directed, manipulated by the person behind this thing. And I want to tell you something else. One of the greatest sources for manipulation and influence is music. This is free. It's not in the notes. You won't find it in this 20 pages of notes that I've got here. And you're thinking, oh my God, is that for today? You just never know. But it's people are influenced. And sometimes we try to get them on our side. Oh, are you still out there? I remember a situation where a family or a man came and said, hey, Pastor, would it be all right if we had Monday night Bible study at our house, and maybe somebody want to come. Sure, go for it, you know. But I didn't realize till later the Monday night Bible study was to influence people to their opinion. I'll never forget when they asked us, hey, could we see a copy of your Constitution and bylaws? We're trying to help a friend set up his church. How dumb can you get, Dwayne? You remember that? Why did they want to see a copy of our Constitution and bylaws? They wanted to see how they could get rid of me. As founding pastors, it was in our original Constitution and bylaws that we would be pastors until we resigned, retired, other than for moral or financial failure. And once that happened, once they read those bylaws, all of a sudden now they're getting ready to move. And when they did, and I didn't know it at the time, they were having Bible study. They were talking about how that, I had too much authority. I mean, the church was just booming. God was moving. We'd been in existence for like 4 years, and our Easter service, before all this stuff happened, we had over 250 people. Opinions. Getting people to agree with you on what you want. That is manipulation. Now, when the church begins to allow the outside, we used to call it world, but it's the outside influences to dominate the local church. You know where those influences are coming from? It's not from God. It's coming from the devil. Pastor, we don't use devil anymore in our church. It's coming from Satan. Coming from hell. Oh, Pastor, you're being awfully strong. I'm telling you, the outside influences are opposed to the things of God. And the reason that we are seeing so much happen in the world today is because we have been silent. We've allowed darkness to